Hello, I want to share with you a quick tutorial on how to use a tool that I recently shared to the community. It is called Tweening with Tweener, a Python-based solution. This page will take you, and this is on the community tab of the derivative site. So I have a little kind of rundown of where this comes from, what it's inspired by. A tool I used to use back in the day called GreenSock, which is a tweening library, a code-based, scripting-based tweening library that I had used for Flash and HTML5. And I can just show you real quick their website and show you their code syntax, because mine's going to be very similar to this. And you're just able to kind of set the object duration, opacity, in this case is the variable they're trying to change, hit run, and it will, do the thing. So I wanted to make a version of that in Python that would work with TouchDesigner. On this page, I've got some documentation on the general 4 functions that you can use with this, the parameters to use within those functions. I gave you an easing chart to show you the easing options, and this was also created with the tool itself in Touch. And then I've given you some code examples down below to help get you started. So we're going to jump over to TouchDesigner and show you how that works. First, I want to show you how you might traditionally move something in TouchDesigner. So let's create a rectangle. And let's give us some space to play in. So we'll go 1920 by 500. Let's go 540. And then I'm going to make the rectangle itself in pixels. I'm going to make it 150 by 150. And that gives us a canvas to play with and a box to move around. So traditionally, you might go and use a chop, maybe an LFO, and connect that to a math chop, and from a math into a null to keep things nice and tidy. And we'll change that range on the math to -1 to 1, and the output range -0.4 to 0.4. And then we will drag that null value over to the center X position. And that will give us side-to-side movement in our box, our rectangle. And that's great. Okay, great, it's moving. Okay, let's control the speed. To control the speed, you would go over here to your LFO and you would change your frequency and play with those settings. And you might try some other types of essentially curves on how that operates. And that's fine, and that's useful for certain things. But when you do it programmatically, you're able to have a lot more control, and you're able to sequence multiple events at a time in kind of a queue, so that you can do more complicated animation that you might not want to, play with the LFO chop approach. You could also use animation curves as another approach. But I find animation curves to be kind of tedious, especially when you do a longer sequence. And when I use the tweening library, I'm typically using it for UI-based stuff, sliding things in, fading stuff, headers, and doing multiple juggling of assets on the screen at a time. So I've already brought in the Tweener talks file, and I've made that available for download. And if you look at it here on the Tweener tab, you have kill all tweens. This is kind of how you kill all the processes. If you have something that's constantly running in a loop, that you can kill it. It'll also show you how many active tweens you have, and this just gives you version and takes you, this update button will take you back to the site to make sure you've got the latest. So to start, we're going to copy that rectangle, make a new version of it, and I'm going to put these on screen in a layout so that it's much easier to see in the background. So we will snag that there, and we will put that top to bottom. And there we go. So I'll decouple this bottom one. And let's do it the tweening way. So it's going to be a script. So for now, we'll just do a text box here, and we're going to edit that. So I'm just going to use, you can edit it, however you like to edit things. I prefer to use Sublime. So you need to use the, by default, when you drag the tox in, it already has a global shortcut. So to access that, you type op.tweener, and then you call the function. So in this case, we're going to do let's do the simplest version first, 2. Then you tell it the object name. So in this case, it's rectangle 2. And then you're able to give it parameters. And those parameters need to be enclosed in curly brackets because this is kind of an object with multiple name value pairs. So we're going to give it, what do we want to change? So we want to change the center X. So we go back into our code here and we type in center X, colon to separate between that and the value. And we'll move it to 0.4 is where we want that to go. And how long do we want it to take? Duration. We'll make that over 2 seconds. And that's all you need. Like that is the basic command syntax right there. So if I save that, go over here and Control R to run. Okay, great. I've moved that box to that place in 2 seconds. Woohoo. But now you can play with it more and add more to it. So that's the simplest way. And there's 2 main ways of doing this. There's the to function and the from to version. So it means that if you do if you're using the to function, it takes the current value of whatever that is, whatever you're trying to change. In this case, center X. It'll copy whatever its current value is as the start value, and it will move it towards what you've set as basically the end value. With the from to version of this function, you're going to give it 2 objects, 2 object parameter curly brackets. One is your start group and one is your end group, and that's just the difference between those 2. So I'm going to change this to a from to, and I'm going to make our starting bracket over here. This is the from, the start position, start values. Again, it's going to be center X, colon, and then we're going to start at -4 like the other one does. And we're going to run that again. I'm going to make it a little faster, make it 1 second, and go over here and run. So it's going to go beginning. Every time I hit that, it's going to start over here and go over there. Easy enough. All right, so this is, now we're going to start adding more to it. So for formatting reasons, I'm going to make this a little cleaner to understand. I'm going to return this down to another line. This is the object that you're targeting. This is the 2 parameters. I'm going to break that out as well. This is how the code is on the that I've sampled on the site for you. It just makes it real easy to read when you have it formatted, broken out like this. You just got to remember to add commas after each of your value pairs so you don't get an error. So now we're going to add multiple things. So let's do scale. Let's do rotation. Let's do rotate. Oh, typing. Rotate. We're going to start at 0. Again, make sure you have your comma after each line. So down here, we're going to do a new line here, and we're going to do rotate, sorry, 90 degrees, comma, save. All right, so let's run that again. Okay, so now we have rotation. We have those 2 things going at the same time. So you can put as many variables as you want to control in this tween. So you can do scale as well. Let's do scale. So scale. Oh, it's just size. So size X, size Y. So we can go in here and start with a size X colon And I think we're starting at 150. Remember your comma after. We'll duplicate that down, turn that to a Y because we just keep it square. And I'm going to copy these and bring it down to the next box down here. And let's double it in size. So 300. Whoopsie. 300. There we go. Save. So we're going to run that. Okay, now it scales and rotates and does that. So yeah, okay. But let's start to make it a little more interesting. So if we go back to the web page here, one of the main interesting parts of this is easing. So you can get some different looks of motion here. So let's go with maybe an ease in, ease out cubic. So ease in, ease out, cubic. Just copy and paste that. And put that down here. Ease. And this is a string, so it needs to be in quotes. And I think this is easing is the key word here. So we're going to save that. Go back to TouchDesigner. And, got a syntax error. I think I forgot a comma. Yep, comma. Just got to make sure I got my comma so it knows how to separate those. All right, so boom, we got some nice whip motion there, some ease in, ease out stuff going on. Fun. All right, so let's think about something, that you would do traditionally in TouchDesigner if you wanted to do this all in chops. Maybe you had a series of events. You wanted to move, rotate, or let's say move, scale, rotate, and then move back. Now, if you did that in chops, you'd have to do a sequence of chops, perhaps, or do an animation curves type thing. But let's just say you did it all in chops. Well, then you would have to create a sequence, and that sequence would have to have some type of timer or something to know when to kind of do one thing, and then timing to do the next trigger, and the next trigger, and the next trigger. And it would become a very convoluted a chain, a network, just to get the simple animation going. So let's do something in the code here. Let's do multiple. Instead of doing this all in one go, we're going to do multiple tweens. So I'm going to do, let's delete a couple things here. Let's start with, we're just going to move it from left to right. And no rotate. And take out that. Oops. And take out rotate, and we'll leave the easing in. We'll change the duration to 2. All right, so that is that. That is going to just get us back to moving from left to right. Great. Now we're going to do the scale. So let's just copy paste. Let's do rotate. Rotate. We're going to do 0. Rotate, let's do -90. And then let's do maybe a different easing. Let's go with, back to the website here, bump, bump, bump. And let's maybe go ease out sign, whatever. Let's just grab something. All right. Now, if I were to run it like this, we're going to get them happening at the same time. Okay, so in order to get these happen in a sequence, we have to add a delay. So, and just whenever we have the from to, the extra keywords that aren't your targeted variables, like easing and duration, the things that are listed as parameters on the website, those things have to happen in the second grouping if you're doing the from to. If you're in the to, it's all just in the same grouping. So here we're going to add a delay. So we know that the animation to move is taking 2 seconds. All this is in seconds. So we're going to add a 2-second delay to our rotation. So that means now if I run this, I will move, then I'll rotate. And boy, isn't that a slow rotation. So we'll change that to a speed of maybe 0.5. And now we'll go and we'll do another. We'll just copy this, go down here, and now we'll do the scale. So that was size X, and starting at 150, and size Y, and also down here, size X, and we're going to change that up to 300, and so make a duplicate, Y, 300 as well. And when it scales up, let's do more of a bounce. So let's look here, one of our easing bouncy type things. Ease out elastic is a good one. Ease out elastic. All right, so we're going to change that to ease out elastic. And now we need to change our delay to, so we had a duration of 2, then a duration of 0.5. So if this were all, because all these are starting at the same time, when you run these, put them into the queue, it's going to execute all of them, but it's going to offset the starting by the delay amount. So down here, we need to set this one to 2.5 to offset the first two. So now we go back to TouchDesigner, and we run this, and move, rotate, bounce. We probably want to slow that bounce down just so we see it a little better. So let's change that duration to a 2-second bounce and run it again. All right, and now let's take it back to where it started from. So let's go back to our code here, add yet another one. This time we're going to keep the scale, but we're going to reverse it, 300, because that's where we currently are at the end of that sequence. We're going to take it back to 150. We're going to just make it kind of an ease out, go circle. And let's take that duration. 2 is fine. Delay, we now need to go up another 2 seconds because of the last one we added. And let's move its center X. Cannot type or spell when under the pressure of recording. So center X, we're going to go back to -0.4, or actually this is where we're starting. So we're starting at 0.4, and we're going to go back to -0.4. Doesn't matter which order they're in. All right, save and execute. So slide, rotate, bounce, and then should have slid back, but it didn't. So let me look at my, I think I have a mistake in my easing spelling there. So let me change that. I said circ. Is it circle? Ease in, ease out, circ. That's what I thought it was. Ease out. Oh, I forgot the last C there. All right, so we'll go back here. We'll run it again. Rotate, scale, and slide back. But it didn't. I must have given it a bad value. So I told it to go to 1.4. It needs, of course, go to -1. I'm sorry, -0.4. So save, last time, run it again. Boom, boom, scale, and slide back to where we started. Run it again. So I do have ping pong, which allows you to reverse and keep cycling. You could also tell these things to loop, repeat as many times as you want. You can also add an on-complete execution of code. So let's just do one of those real quick. So let's go down here, and at the very bottom, I probably need to move this up so that you can see it. So let's go and add an on-complete. And now we can add a little bit of Python here that'll be interpolated and executed. So we'll do a print, just a real simple one, print and we'll call it just tween done. Yay! So now I'll bring up the output here, and we will run this again. And it'll run, it'll do its thing, and it will say tween done. So that's great if you want to do a sequence of events and then have code execute at the end. Now, I know this seems really simplistic, but you can really build some complicated systems on this. And I'm planning to do some more videos showing you how to do more complex things. For example, let's say you're building some type of touchscreen museum kiosk interface, and you have a bunch of people profiles, and you've got a grid of people that you want it to animate in when they load. Well, you can set them all to animate in using tweening and offset them all, so you have a really slick animation that just slides back and forth and does scaling and popping and various things to just add more pizzazz to the thing without getting overly complicated with doing it through chops or animation. It's just when you get into interface control and wanting to sequence things to very strict timing, it's a lot easier to, in my opinion, to do it this way versus trying to rely on some of these other things that might be better for music visualizations. But I feel like this method is very strong for interfaces. So I hope you've learned something. If you have any questions, this is still kind of an early release. I'm sure there's going to be some bugs and errors, and if you have problems, please reach out and let me know, and we'll try to fix those and improve this. And if you have any requests for how we might try to use this within TouchDesigner in a way that you would like, please put that down in the comments, and we'll do our best to answer those. So thanks. I hope this has been useful, and I look forward to making some more videos about it. Real quick, before I end this video, I thought I'd insert how to handle errors, because if you type something wrong, you might get an error and not know what to do, how to clear it. So real quick, I want to just reduce this down to our first tween here, where it just moves across the screen. That's great. And I want to create an error. So let's just create a bad variable name. And hopefully I'll try to prevent this in the future, to a try catch or something. But I'm just going to give it a bad value here. And I'm going to execute it. And okay, that gave us an error, but it didn't actually do anything bad other than not let it run. So that wasn't what I was hoping it would do. So maybe bad value. Maybe if I give it a string or something. Let's run that. Okay, there we go. So now we've got this runaway thing happening. And that's because this is being executed in a frame loop. So this error just seems like, oh, it doesn't stop. I can't stop it, blah, blah, blah. I hit clear. It doesn't stop. So to stop this situation, you go to, in this case, the tween has an end timing, so it did stop. But if you had it on a loop or repeat, it wouldn't stop. So you would have a situation where, like, this was just a running error. And the way you would fix that problem, and let me just recreate with repeating. So if I go here and do a repeat -1, it'll just keep, once this ends, it'll keep executing it over and over and over again. So this error will just keep happening. And like, oh, what do I do? If I hit clear, it keeps doing it. So what you do is you go over here and you hit kill all tweens pulse. That'll stop that'll dump all of the tweens that are in the queue. And then you can go back and address your error. And in this case, we just had a bad value, a string instead of a float. So just wanted to toss that in there because everyone runs into typos and errors. And in this case, that is what that would look like. And that's how you resolve it. Click on Tweener, click kill all tweens, fix your error, run it again. Just wanted to drop this in here because I'm sure some folks will run into that as they practice. Thanks.